Jeannie Buss did a Q&A with NBA.com, and when she was asked if she expects the Lakers to make a major move this offseason, Buss said, "Nothing would surprise me. We're not making change for the sake of change. It has to be good basketball decisions that help us now and doesn't compromise our ability to deal in the future." Now, Wendy, do we expect the Lakers to actually improve this season?
The most important part of that quote was the last part, where she said she doesn't want to do something that would hurt their ability to deal in the future. Because that's what we're really talking about. What the Lakers have been dealing with is their inability or reluctance to dip into the few picks that they have on their plate to improve this team. And so, Jeannie Buss, she's been very shrewd about one thing. Especially in her tenure as owner. And that is that she recognizes that she needs to maintain an open relationship with star players and always keep the Lakers as a welcoming place for stars. And so as she looks at this roster right now, she may not see a team, and she's not going to say this, she may not see a team that can win a championship, but she may see a team in 2 or 3 years that can win a championship. And so she's got to safeguard that. And here's the reality. Let's say that Anthony Davis is much healthier this year. He got bad luck last year. He came back from a knee injury. He was playing awesome, and then he hurt his leg again in sort of a freak injury. That's bad luck. LeBron had some injuries. Some of it was bad luck. But here's the thing. They won 33 games last year. Yeah. So even if those two guys are healthy, and let's say that the handful of young guys that they signed when they had one of the oldest rosters in the NBA history, that younger roster plays better defense. And let's say they win. Let's say they win 12, 13 more games. Now, I think that's pie in the sky. But let's just, for a moment, say that they have a brilliant season and they win 12 or 13 more games. That's still play-in zone. Yeah. You look at the teams in front of them, the Jazz are sort of rebuilding. They're going to come back. The Spurs are rebuilding. Those are two teams that finished in front of them. They're going to come back. But they've got the Portland Trailblazers coming from behind them. The Sacramento Kings, who've had a very quietly, very impressive summer, coming from behind them. And if you go and look at the recent history of the Western Conference, you've needed, and there was a couple years there where it was COVID impacted, so the actual win totals weren't the same, but you needed about 47, 48 wins to get out of the play-in zone. That would be the Lakers winning 14, 15 more games. I suppose it is possible with the talent that they have, but if you're Jeannie Buss, and you're looking at that, I can see how you're saying, look, we're going to try to have a great season. We're going to try to have a rebound season. We're going to do our best. But I am not mortgaging the future for a team that I don't 100% believe in can get up there into that zone. And that's one of the things that I took away from her comments. I think they would love to get Kyrie Irving. That would change their dynamic. Then maybe we could talk about them winning 15, 17 more games and maybe getting the 5 seed or something like that. But they're only going to do it if the price makes sense and, as Jeannie said, doesn't impact what they can do in the future.
Well, in the future is kind of what they've been focusing on and having, arguably, and what was criticized as the worst season in franchise history. A lot of criticism here. Now, Dominique, which Laker gets the most unfairly criticized?
Well, I think Russ is a little unfairly criticized because, it's not his fault he makes a lot of money, and we all knew what he was when he got there, expecting him to be something different. But the most unfairly criticized, I think, is LeBron James. It feels odd to me that before they signed LeBron, I think Julius Randle was probably their best player. They were not making the playoffs. They had no realistic look at winning a championship. And then they sign LeBron, and he brings them, not only does he bring them a championship, but he also brings them Anthony Davis, which is a building block to win championships in the future. So, and it feels as though, a lot of the criticism around LeBron is he's making too much, or he's controlling the front office decisions too much. You knew what it was when you signed up. That's what he did in Cleveland. That's what he wanted to do in Miami, and that's part of the reason why he went to Cleveland. It seemed like a pretty, obvious deal. To me, it feels like Lakers fans and anyone who's complaining is like they got some coffee and are complaining that it's hot. This is what it is. LeBron James delivered on his end of the bargain. He gave you more than you could have anticipated. A championship and a young-ish star to build around going forward. To me, any Lakers fans or anyone in the front office that is complaining about LeBron, it seems to me that they are reneging on a deal that seemed pretty obvious. And if one end of the deal is being held up, whereas LeBron is holding up his end of the deal, then you got to take the price that comes with it. And part of that price is you're going to have to sign a lot of players from Clutch. And if that's what you have to do, oh well, you got to bank.
I want to note real quick, and Tommy, I'll let you jump in right here. I just want to note also the value of Rudy Gobert, the casual basketball. I think about the people we just talked about. Paul George, Anthony Davis, guys previously, Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett. These guys are like Hall of Famers. And I think for the casual basketball fan, they don't quite appreciate how good Gobert is, how valuable he is. We talked about this, Tommy, very early in the season. We did a whole segment on Gobert and how good he is and how valuable and how impactful he is. And I think specifically on this team with this lineup, he's going to be even better.
I was going to follow up to both of you guys. Jason from Minneapolis asked us about Rudy's fit with this particular team. Alex, what do you see? Do you see Cat? I mean, like how does this change things for Cat defensively with this makeup of this roster right now? What effect do you think he's going to have?
You know what it reminds me a lot about? It reminds me a lot of the LA team when we won the championship. You know, we would start AD at the 4, you know, save his body a little bit, don't have him bang with the 5s the whole season, 82 games, because that's a grind, right? Like going into the trenches night in, night out, having to set screens, hit guys, rebound, run, block shots. It just reminds me of us having JaVale and Dwight, you know, to kind of do some of that dirty work. And then, you know, obviously they got to figure out their best lineup, but you know, it might be Cat at the 5 late in games, you know, spreading teams out, going 5 out, small ball essentially, like they like to say. But I think you'll make a good point. Like the fit, I think the fit is great, you know, because Gobert does all the things that Cat doesn't really do well, and I think, you know, Cat does things that Gobert doesn't do well. I think it's a good mesh. It'll just be interesting to see how it works, you know, when it comes down to the fourth quarter winning time, what their best lineup is.
And I also think with this team specifically, if Anthony Edwards takes the leap, and he had a bunch of moments throughout the regular season and the playoffs where you're like, wow, that could be the best player on a championship level team. If he takes that leap consistently, they're going to be one of the top 4 teams in the West. As good as the West is, I really believe that because I really believe in how good Gobert is. And if Anthony Edwards can be that guy, all of a sudden you're talking about legitimately like a conference finals level team.
There is one thing I think that's going to be, you know, overlooked. I think at the end of the day, it's a guards league, right? It's a guards and wings league. You know, even if you have a really good power forward or something like that, I feel like, you know, the best players are the guys that bring the ball up. I think that's, you know, from NCAA tournament to NBA playoffs, I think that's the biggest thing. And I think them losing Pat Bev and Jared Vanderbilt is going to be a something they're going to have to find out how to replace, you know, because those two guys Jared Vanderbilt went to the glass every time the ball was shot, he went to the offensive glass, and every time he guarded the best wing. And then Pat Bev obviously does what he does. You trade a little bit of that for Gobert at the rim, which, you know, is a nice give and take, but I think that's something else I'd be interested to see how that fits, you know, how they replace that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we should note that Kyle Anderson, of course, signed there, and he could provide some of what Jared Vanderbilt did, but he's not Pat Bev in the sense of the spirit and the moxie and the aggravation that he provides on a nightly basis.
Great vocab.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.